Welcome to Election 2023 coverage featuring the KRWG Public Media Las Cruces Mayoral Candidate Forum. Hello, I'm Anthony Moreno. During this hour, we will learn more about the candidates and where they stand on the issues facing the city. KRWG and the League of Women Voters of Southern New Mexico are pleased to present this forum. The rules for this forum are each candidate has up to 60 seconds to answer each question and should not mention their opponents in their answers. We now welcome our candidates, Enriquez, Kasandra Gandara, Alex Baca Fresquez, Eugenia Gina Montoya Ortega, Isabella Solis, and Mike Tellez. KRWG did invite candidate Mariah Hernandez to participate. She was unable to join us. My co-moderator for this forum is Liz Rodriguez Johnson with the League of Women Voters of Southern New Mexico. I will now start with the first question for candidate Enriquez. What experience do you feel makes you qualified to serve as mayor?
All right, well, thank you. Thank you, first of all, for having us here today and to learn more about us as we're running for mayor for the city of Las Cruces. The experience I bring to the table, I have over 25 years of working in public government. I started out as a firefighter here in Las Cruces in 1997. I went through a police academy. I then became a fire marshal in the city of Hobbs. I relocated and became a fire marshal, which is a lot of inspections, investigations, and code enforcement, and then became the director of community services while I was there, which gave me a broader spectrum, more diverse as far as learning the city, and then I became the fire chief. Then in 2016 came back, was the fire chief of Las Cruces, and then the assistant city manager. So with my experience as being an administrator, I feel it gives me the qualifications to be the next mayor for the city of Las Cruces.
Thank you. Candidate Gandara.
Thank you so much, KRWG and League of Women Voters, for the invitation. I am currently the mayor pro tem and have been since 2019. I am a city councilor for District 1, which is the economic heart of Las Cruces. I'm familiar with the budget process, charter, and Open Meetings Act. I've presided over meetings numerous times. I have 30 plus years of experience with local, state, federal, and national leaders that will enable me to hit the ground running on day one. I'm an administrator and have been for 30 years. I'm familiar with this city. I believe having the experience as social work gives me the unique edge to be the leader of this city at this moment in time. I am familiar with developing policy. I've done a number of work around strategic planning and working to address the issues that we currently face as the city.
Thank you. Candidate Fresquez.
Thank you for having me. The simple answer to that question is that I am a collaborative spirit. I've worked in town in multiple voluntary capacities. I spent time working with the FYI AmeriCorps, doing in-school tutoring, after-school programs and summer school programs, as well as some time spent with Conservation Corps New Mexico, which was tasked with going into natural spaces in the Lincoln National Forest to conserve basically our natural resources. And both of those situations require collaboration, they require team effort, they require listening, and they require care and commitment. You can't do any service job and get paid $240 every 2 weeks without caring. You can't show up and have kids bouncing off the wall for hours at a time without being committed, because the second that they see that you're not coming into work, any trust they have in you is gone. So,
okay, thank you very much. We're now going to move on to candidate Ortega.
Hi, thank you for having us, KRWG League of Women Voters, Liz. So the experience that I bring is 40 years of experience. I started working as soon as I was 15. I started working at McDonald's. As a small business owner, we had a bakery over on Valley Drive. Actually, my husband just reopened it. So that has basically really given us a lot of experience working with finance and budgeting, realizing that every penny that you get is very, very important. You've got to really take care of that. I've worked in human resources, so understanding the staff and how they are dealing with issues, or just understanding people. I was actually an educational assistant for about 4 years with the Las Cruces Public Schools. I am a wife, which gives you a lot of experience in actually collaboration and communication. My husband and I have been married for 37.5 years. I'm a mother to 3 adult children. I have 2 wonderful grandbabies, so I'm a nana. And retail, I have retail experience. I've worked for Sam's, I've worked for Target. So just really well-rounded. Yes.
Thank you very much. Candidate Solis.
Thank you so much for having us here. It's an honor to be here. I was a legal assistant. I started out as a legal assistant. I then started working for FEMA, and I served there a number of years in the housing mission, providing homes for people that lost their properties during hurricanes. And then shortly thereafter, I decided to run for county commission. So I served as a county commissioner in Doña Ana County. I was the chairwoman of the county. I've understood the budget, understand how to run meetings. So I feel like I am a proven leadership, and that's why I'm running for mayor, because I think I have the experience that as a county commissioner will serve me well as your mayor of Las Cruces. And talking to community, building relationships in the community, and I want to be a voice for the community. That's what we need, someone that I will listen to. I want to be able to listen to the community, and I will serve you well.
Yes, thank you very much. I have 30 years experience in business. I owned a national chain IHOP restaurant for 15 years. I trained leaders in that. I was one of the highest employers of 14-year-olds at the time I had it. What I did was I hired kids, trained them how to get out into the workforce and work hard for what they wanted. I opened up the Dream Center in 2006, and I currently have several programs in there. We work with kids. Ours is a totally free program. If people come in and they're doing something for the community, doing something for kids, I let them have the facility for no charge. I train leaders, I build leaders, and what I've learned through my years of business is to surround yourself with the very best people. None of us know everything, but it's who we surround ourselves with is what makes things happen. I've studied the issues of the city, and I've got a full plan.
Candidate Gandara, what are your top goals if selected to serve as mayor?
Thank you for the question, Liz. My top priorities are I would like to implement in my first 100 days a Healthy Las Cruces platform, focusing on 3 factors. One being economic prosperity for all, quality of life, and sustainability. Now on economic prosperity, I'd like to advance what we're doing currently in our innovation and industrial park. Many people know that we have flights coming out of our city to Albuquerque, and we've been able, with that little bit of attention, attract our first Fortune 500 company and 4 more in the queue. I want to move into phase 2, which would mean flights maybe to Phoenix or Texas. Then you can fly anywhere. I think it's important that we continue to focus our time and attention on aerospace, particularly with our collaboration with New Mexico State University, so that we reduce the brain drain. Thank you.
So I appreciate you using the word service, Liz, because that's what the job is. It's a responsibility to come in and be concerned for people's well-being. That means public health and public safety. So the first goal I'd like to set into motion would be to conserve 500 million gallons of water annually, and I would do that by inviting council and city government to implement a flush and save program, which would replace 100,000 flush valves in residential and commercial toilets to minimize the amount of water that we're flushing down the drain every day, day in and day out, year after year after year. It would cost anywhere from $5 to $10 million if we secured grants from different federal treasuries available. So that would be priority 1, because we know we live in a desert. We know that water is scarce and becoming scarcer, and every other situation that we face in this city is built on top of whether or not we have water. If we don't have water, we don't have a city.
All right, that is our time. We'll move on to candidate Ortega.
So my priorities would be giving people back their voice. I believe when people come to the city council meetings, we need to actually listen to what they are saying. We have we're depending right now on 7 people to make the decision for the entire city. And I believe that's not the way that it should work. We have a lot of talented people in the city of Las Cruces that have a lot of great ideas. So we need to listen to what the people are seeing or what they're saying, because they see, and they might actually have ideas to assist us with a lot of the issues that we're having. I would like to focus on crime. Right now we have a lot of small businesses, ourselves included. The businesses are being vandalized. Vandalism just all over, and I believe this has to do with the drug problem that we are experiencing here in Las Cruces as well as a nation. I would like to ensure that our taxpayer dollars are being well spent. We need to stop the wasteful spending. How can we utilize this money in more beneficial ways that will actually help the city of Las Cruces? I would really like to also focus on the youth. They are the future. They are our future police officers. They are our future nurses. They are here to help take care of us as we get older and we need those care.
Thank you. My 3 priorities is public safety is my priority, crime is my second, and homelessness is my third. I think that we need to bring our police officers back to a professional career instead of it being so demised as what it is today. I think that they need to own it and be professional about what we are doing, and I would like to be able to provide the resources necessary for them to be able to be excellent officers and protect our community. And as far as crime, it has doubled since 2016. We have had a lot of businesses, small businesses that have been vandalized over and over. So I feel like I would work in conjunction with DA and legislators to be able to provide the catch and release, work on that policy. And then as for the homeless, I would like to be able to see a policy that says that there is no encampments and provide public safety for our community and to be able to provide safety for our small businesses. Thank you.
Candidate Tellez.
Number 1 is crime. We're at a 5 index. Our crime index is 5 out of 100. We're looking at economic development. Before we can bring economic development in, we've got to take care of some of these issues, crime being one. Number 2, our homeless problem. I've studied for the past 5 years on what we can do for the homeless, and I've come up with a plan that the federal judges will not block. Panhandling. I just passed a man, a dog, and a lady in the middle median on Main Street with a sign. I've worked on a plan based on several cities that have implemented policies against soliciting on the roadways and call it traffic safety. Panhandling in parking lots of businesses, that's called customer safety, and I've found a plan that we could implement that would help us take care of that problem. Those are my top 3 issues.
Okay, we'll close the question with candidate Enriquez.
Yes, thank you. With my background in public safety, number 1 priority is public safety. There has been an increase in property crimes, and I would help police with coming up with policies and procedures that we can do and ordinances to help them reduce the crime in our community. They need more resources, they need assistance, and I would be a support of our law enforcement. After public safety, the homeless, the panhandling. I know the panhandling, we can come after the ordinance as a safety issue. We have affordable housing needs, and that's how we can assist and help the individuals that are homeless. I don't believe there's any reason why anybody should be homeless in Las Cruces. I think we can come up with a plan with money that's already earmarked for affordable housing, that we could use that to come up with a good plan to house everyone and help them and have a good quality of life. I know there's issues, mental addiction and things, but we can always provide assistance to help them and make the community safe.
Thank you very much. We are going to move on to our next question. This has to do with an issue that some of you have already brought up, crime. Property crime and violent crime are growing concerns in the city. What steps will you take to help improve public safety in Las Cruces? We will begin with candidate Fresquez.
So last night at Temple Bethel, we had this question come up, and my answer to that question is the same now as it was then. We have police service aides that are now on the payroll, and I feel that we should expand the number of police service aides that we have to respond to non-emergent situations. That way, the fully garbed police officers in need around the community can respond to more emergent situations. So that would be one way that I would try to alleviate police officers from having to respond to every single call that they get and having to show up and take reports like they had to do for me. They can respond more directly to emergencies better if they're able to patrol, if they're able to respond to them without having that same workload.
Thank you. Candidate Ortega.
So I believe that we need to ensure that our police officers are fully trained and fully staffed. I know that we have been short for quite a while, and once again that goes back to the youth. The youth, we need to focus on them because they are the future police officers. We do not have people here moving to Las Cruces to become our police officers. The youth is our next future police officers. I personally carry the police non-emergency number programmed into my telephone, and I use it quite often. When I see something that doesn't look right or doesn't feel right, I make that call and just say, hey, there's somebody over here, chucking rocks or holding a rock that's getting thrown into the street. So making public be aware that we have to do our part as well. We cannot depend on the police officers, especially knowing that they are not fully staffed. I believe that would probably be about ensuring just the police officers.
I would like to see more police presence. Talking to officers, they always say that when you have more police presence, it detours crime. And so I would like to work on that to be able to provide the resources that our officers need. And as far as crime, I think that we need to work on policy to be able to talk about the catch and release program. And I haven't read anything where it says that we cannot hold some of these people at least 72 hours so they can go through the process from the city to the judge. And I like to be able to see how can we hold them for 72 hours so that they can go through this process, and at least because you arrest them in 30 minutes and then an hour later they're back out in the street. So we need to be able to work on that policy right there.
First of all, we could hire 1,000 policemen, but if we don't go to the root cause, the same thing will continue to happen. We have a mental health and substance abuse problem in this community right now. We need to set a facility up to deal with mental health and substance abuse, preferably a long-term treatment plan. I believe that the country club area would have been a beautiful place to put it with 3 crosses right there. But we do have to have something that deals with why. I talked to 2 police chiefs, and they told me 98% of the crime in this city is mental health and substance abuse. So that tells us right now what we need to address. The judges have told me that if they had a facility to send them to, that they would gladly send them there. So if we had a facility to deal with mental health and substance abuse, that's exactly where the judges would send them so they could get help. Because if we get rid of that, well, that's 98% of the crime.
Wow.
Candidate Enriquez.
Yes, as I mentioned already, there is an increase in property crime. I believe the hiring process is number one that we need to look at for the police department, and then continue with the training that they receive and enhance that and get that better. There's also other resources such as the DEA, U.S. Marshals, other agencies here in the community that we can partner up with task force, because we do have a drug problem in this community. And as far as mental, I think we need the infrastructure. But the other thing is technology. There's new technology out there. There's drones that can get ahead of the crime scene to help our officers know what's coming ahead and be proactive instead of reactive when they get on scene. There's also public and private cameras that you can work on high crime areas so that we can see it live through whether our dispatch or law enforcement can view and call in those crimes that are taking place at that time, and we can be proactive instead of reactive to the things that are taking place. So training, hiring, and technology is how I would approach the crime.
Candidate Gandara.
Thank you. I would continue to look at the root causes that are creating the crime around our community. It's things like poverty, addiction, mental health. I think it important to note that some of our neighborhoods are suffering from 34% poverty rate, something that I have continued to work on with address our Lift Up program. I'd like to scale that Lift Up program. It's an infrastructure program that the city provides more lighting, street improvement, sidewalk improvement, but also partnering with our nonprofits, something that's really important to offer sort of a seamless system of care for these folks that are struggling with basic needs and are thriving services that include workforce reintegration. I agree that we need to have substance abuse short-term and long-term facility, and that again will mean having communication with our public-private folks to make that happen.
Thank you very much. We are now moving on to our next question.
What's your plan to help strengthen economic development in the city?
So economic development or economic strength is going to come from us becoming more business friendly. This is my third time running for mayor, and this is something I started singing the first time that I ran. When we opened our business, it took us almost 2 years to open it up. Businesses don't have 2 years to come in and try to open a business. You need to get in there, get working, and start making money. So we need to become business friendly. When I ran the first time, we knew we had that issue. The second time that I ran, all of a sudden we realized, oh, we do have a problem. So they supposedly came up with this department that helped streamline things. From what I'm understanding now we still have not mastered that process. So we need to do what we possibly can to help the businesses come into Las Cruces, make it as easy as possible, not by taking shortcuts, breaking laws or fire codes or whatever it may be, but just ensuring that it's easier for a business to come in.
Thank you. Candidate Solis.
I think that once we address the public safety, the crime, the education system, I think that we'll be able to attract small businesses. I am pro-business and pro-growth in our community. I think that we have a great opportunity with the West Mesa Industrial Park. We don't even have to reinvent the wheel. We can use what Santa Teresa is using to bring in some good economic-based jobs for our families and our children to be able to stay here. I think the biggest export that we have are our children leaving here because there aren't enough jobs. So bringing in small businesses, making it attractive, cut down on some of the red tape that we have to be able to get them in, work in conjunction with our developers and our contractors, and see how we can get business rolling around here. We've been talking about this for years and we're still spinning our wheels. So it's important that we address the top 3 issues to be able to make Las Cruces attractive for people to come here. Thank you.
Candidate Tellez.
Yes, before business will move here, there are areas we need to address first. Crime, healthcare, workforce. We work with the NMSU and the branch, Community College, and we work with them on getting a workforce. That will take care of one of the areas. The crime issues, what we just talked about, would be dealing with the homeless, the panhandlers. That would help almost eliminate the majority of the crime in this area. Things for people, for families to do in this city. I've looked at Burns Lake and I see the potential to put a water park, an amusement park, and a large indoor van skate park right there. Things for people that are under 21 and families to be able to do in this area. We need to look at what the families are looking for. Once we address the issues, then we go to the 2 departments that do this. The economic development, we have 2 of them. We have the local economic development and the county.
All right, we're now moving on to candidate Enriquez.
Yes, with economic development, I agree. First of all, we do have to make the city safe, so we make it attractive for other businesses to come in. And I believe here in Las Cruces, we're still one of the best kept secrets. I think we have all the ingredients here. I'm very optimistic and excited about that. We have White Sands Missile Range, NMSU, we have NASA, we have the spaceport, our neighbors to the south, Santa Teresa, and the industrial park ready to take off. And I feel that it's ready to move into the next era, where we can get better paying jobs for our students that graduate from NMSU, and this would be a place where the city can thrive and be a good quality of place for all of us to live.
Candidate Gandara.
Thank you. About 8 years ago, I helped create an economic development department, and with that, they commissioned a leakage report. They focused on 3 items: healthcare, retail, aerospace, and tech were some of those factors that they looked at. We have some leakage that's happening. So in turn, staff started to really look at what could they do to help mitigate that. I think what we want to do is working with our healthcare industry to recruit specialists, right? Specific maybe to GI, cancer, and beef up those services. I also would like to continue to focus on our airport and our creative economy, something that we're doing now with our 828 film studios, and but also beefing up the arts and our outdoor recreation. We have a tremendous amount of positive things that are happening here.
Okay, thank you, candidate Fresquez.
Thank you for the question. So I'd like us to recognize the most important part of an economy, that is people, that's skilled labor. We grow our economy from the ground up. That means we need to make our partnership with the public education system and with the local school board our top priority as far as economic development. We can talk about the businesses in town here and now, but it's a continuum. We have to think about in the next 4 years, how many high school students are going to be able to exit and be able to enter the workforce right away. How many of them are going to go right into college and then, like many of the other candidates have talked about, leave town. I'd like to see skills-based training become a central part of curriculum in the local school system. And with all due respect to the local school system that I've been a part of, that I've contributed to, we can only go up from here. We are at a place where anything that we do, any innovation that we bring can only be an improvement. So that's the main thing that I'd like to see take place.
Thank you very much. We're now moving on to our next question. We'll begin with candidate Solis. Do you have a plan to address affordable housing concerns in Las Cruces? And please explain.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. I know that the city has an affordable a Housing Act plan. It's an ordinance that they already have in place, and I know that they received voted on a go bond for $6 million for housing. I'd like to be able to see how we can bring incentive to where we say if you donate, if we get individuals and businesses to incentives to donate into the tax credit business, and that would kind of help with affordable housing. Right now we have a lot of people that are suffering from not being able to afford housing, and so we also, that kind of deters us from having jobs come in as well, because there's no place for people can't afford it. But we need some good paying jobs to be able to provide these jobs for these families so that they can afford a place to live. We have so many graduating from high school and from college and cannot afford a home. So I think that just cutting some of the red tape.
Candidate Tellez.
I believe that, first of all, I'm trying to figure out what affordable housing is. Are we talking about trying to make a house affordable for a minimum wage employee? We all grew up and we knew one thing: if you couldn't afford it, you worked harder to get it. I'd like to see us build an economy that will support a person getting a home. Rather than lowering the cost of a home, let's raise the jobs, the amount of money they make with different companies coming in. We get this city set up to where we can start inviting large companies in, then we start bringing in income that can afford a home. If I can't afford a home, I don't buy it. So I believe that what we need to focus on is bringing work in that will enable people to afford a home, not getting a home and dropping it down to where they're at minimum wage.
Thank you, candidate Enriquez.
Yes, I believe with affordable housing, we need to come up with a solid plan, creating a task force. I know there's already planning that's going on, and it would continue and carry over with what's already been in the works, but then come up with a task force with subject matter experts that understand about development and housing. And we have some other agencies here in the community that have already done a number of things like Tierra del Sol that we could partner up with and get them involved with locations and creating affordable housing for our residents here in Las Cruces. Know that the GO bond was passed, and there's $6 million that are earmarked for that. It's a great start. It's a great way to get going and develop something here in our community. I truly believe with helping the people in our community. It's not just about a handout, it's a hand up. And I think this would be a great opportunity to help those that are just starting out, but keep in mind that we have to look and forecast 10, 15, 20 years into the future to make sure what we develop continues and stays sustained.
Candidate Gandara.
Thank you. Affordable housing is a part of economic development. I'll say that the city has a policy review committee with experts at the table already speaking to what affordable housing is and having a number of housing stock that is that includes things like transitional housing, missing middle, and permanent housing, something that we have to make sure that we have. Currently we have about 5,000 plus need of housing of different types. We have 12 housing projects in the queue, and you'll start to see in 18 months a lot of housing being built. I would also like to focus on our infill. I think something that's really important in our inner city, if you will. There's a number of areas that the city owns, and we can do that by inviting our private partners to the table.
Thank you very much. We're now moving on to candidate Fresquez.
Thank you for the question. So this one, I like to reflect on my grandma's experience here in town. She raised a family of 8 in a Bellama home. Many people in the community will be familiar with them. They live in those homes to this day. They raised their families in them, and they took up a smaller footprint. They were about 1,000 square feet to begin with, 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, attached carport, was enclosed and turned into my grandparents' master bedroom. I feel that what we need to do is encourage those skill-based training programs like the one that the Las Cruces Home Builders Association has at Oñate, to continue to teach kids how to build these houses, how to enter that workforce, and tell them that there is a huge demand for houses that would be within that footprint and within $100,000 to $200,000 in starting price. If you were able to convince enough students that, hey, there's an opportunity for you to provide for yourself, to remain in this town, and to make a difference in other people's lives, we can make a difference.
Thank you very much. We are now moving on to candidate Ortega.
I believe that the city has a lot of property that we're unfortunately going to have to utilize, that being that the market is very, very expensive right now, not only in Las Cruces, but as far as a nation. So the city does have a lot of property that we need to take advantage of. We were recently at a Home Builders Association meeting that about 2 weeks ago, and the home builders themselves said that the policies that the city has in line right now, you can actually build a home faster in Hobbs, like 7 months faster than you can here in Las Cruces. So why are we not looking to see what Hobbs is doing that we are not? Obviously, this is not a state mandated issue. It's obviously a city. If Hobbs can do it, it's not something that the state has dictated down. It's something that the city needs to take a look at. So we need to look at the ordinances to see what is preventing us from building, if you can build faster in Hobbs. Also, they were saying that the developers have a harder time because the policies, it's taking them longer, so they're not able to assist the city with building these. I know NMSU has helped in the past, like build the 3-sided structures for the homeless at the tent city. So why don't we utilize that labor? I know NMSU was working with us before.
Thank you very much. That is our time. We're now going to move on to the next question.
And this question first goes to candidate Tellez. How do you plan on working with others to address the needs of those who are unhoused in Las Cruces?
Well, to work with the others with the needs of them, been working on a plan on the unhoused. Now, we're talking about people that could potentially have substance abuse problems or mental health issues. Before we can get them housed, we need to assess them and see exactly what the issues are. The National Guard Armory on Brown Road is the best model right now that the city could have, that we could get the unhoused into an area to where they have a humane place to sleep. Inside, it is set up with beds, cafeterias. We need a place to send them to that they can be assessed and receive the help they need. Now, if we just give them a place to live, we have Desert Hope apartments that house people there, and they give coupons. They live there, and right now that place has one of the highest crime rates in the city.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to candidate Enriquez.
Yes, I think I've already mentioned earlier is coming up with a plan in an area where we can provide some infrastructure that's badly needed for these individuals that are unhoused. And we know that there's some issues there, whether it's mental, whether it's addictions. And so this place has to have the structures. I know we have, like at community of hope as a tent city, and to me as a fire code official, I would say that doesn't fall in line with the fire code or building code, but definitely a temporary staging. We need to get some permanent structures that are by the code that these people can live in and have a good place to live, but also like a community center to help them with their issues, and we can have social workers, counselors, peer-to-peer, living, life skills, cooking, gardening, things of that, so that they can have a quality of life. And I believe that there is no reason why anybody should be homeless in Las Cruces or unhoused.
Thank you. Candidate Gandara.
Thank you. This is a very complicated and complex issue that needs a compassionate and comprehensive plan in place. We need a variety of a housing stock, from emergency to transitional housing to supportive permanent housing. The other important aspect is to initiate that there's a quality intercept model. And what I mean by that is that there is a no wrong door approach to addressing one's mental health and substance abuse and addiction issues. This model is a very important one because we're working with people that have trauma, that have experienced trauma, and quite frankly, you have to convince them to get off the streets, right? That it's safer to get off the streets. And so that requires a number of services that I think in terms of what we call supportive services, supportive housing. The last thing that I'd like to talk about.
Unfortunately, that is our time.
Yeah,
We're going to move on to candidate Fresquez.
Thank you. So all of the candidates have already touched on a lot of the needs, a lot of the conditions, and that it's very complex. It's absolutely true that people who are experiencing mental health or substance abuse issues, they're not necessarily going to say, because you invited me, I'm going to go and live in some housing that you've developed for me. They're not going to just come right out of the situation that they're in. So in mental health circles, I've heard this saying, you have to meet people where they are. My idea is right away, right here and now, we can go out and meet people right where they are at those congested intersections where they're asking for our help. As a community, we can put together mobile service centers, and the people coming in and out of those commercial businesses, purchasing groceries, who are being asked after they've left to give some sort of money to the person in need, can instead give it to that mobile service center, and that mobile service center can then provide food, water, and references to other services.
Thank you very much. Candidate Ortega.
Yes, so once again, actually, everybody's pretty much spoken about the same thing, is actually go to the people that are unhoused and ask them what are their needs. Maybe discover, I know we have veterans that are unhoused. Why? They're probably entitled to some type of benefit. Meeting people where they are, what can we do to assist them? Once again, like I said, the city has a lot of properties. Why are we not utilizing that? I know right now Tent City, I believe, only holds about 50 spaces. So why don't we there's more space to put more people there? We have a facility parallel to Solano behind what used to be the Winchell's Donuts back in the day. I think it's now Lucky Cafe or something like that, that they have, that people are using that. I notice I live over here off of Picacho, and they're using a lot of the hotels that are there to actually help these people. So just finding out why. I know there's some people who would prefer to be homeless. They don't want that. That's what they like doing, and you respect that. But we need to have the policies in place or the ordinances to make sure that they're protected as well as the citizens of the city.
Thank you very much. Candidate Solis.
I agree that we need to have a compassion. I had a cousin that was homeless, but now he's back into the workforce, although he still lives in his truck. After many years, but he does work, so I understand a bit about that. I think that Las Cruces has the crisis triage center that is being utilized currently. I would like to be able to partner, to have discussions, to communicate, and we've talked about a lot of businesses, partners, to be able to see how we can connect those two together, going through the crisis triage and having a facility to be able to treat the mental health issues that we are seeing in our community. And it's really important that we work as a whole, so we need business. We need a whole team to work on this, because like she said, we do have a lot of vacant buildings that could be utilized, but what does that look like? We need to have those conversations to be able to help those that are unhoused. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving on to our next question for candidate Enriquez. Poverty is a concern in our city. Do you feel Las Cruces needs a city-sponsored guaranteed basic income program for those who are struggling to get by. Please explain.
Yes, we are in an area where poverty is high, and anything would help. And I believe that it is an assistance that could help, but we want to make sure that it's accountable, that we can hold the people accountable, and where it's the best rate of return on the investment. I would look towards that kind of income going to housing and helping those individuals that, as I said earlier, need a hand up and not a handout. What we've experienced through COVID is we've seen money just go to people, and they buy things that they desire instead of the things that they need, and there's no accountability. If we're going to do something like that and help the residents of Las Cruces, I think there has to be checks and balances, who qualifies and how it's going to be used in order to help them with their everyday living.
Thank you. Candidate Gandara.
Thank you for the question. As I mentioned before, we have neighborhoods that are living in 34% poverty. I live in one of those communities, one of those neighborhoods, so it's really near and dear to me that we've developed a program that not only serves as improving infrastructure, but works with our nonprofits, right, to bring programming particularly around workforce. This idea of guaranteed basic income I absolutely support. I think it's a way that we reduce crime, right? Poverty, and we have worked with our nonprofit partners like Jardín de los Niños, Families and Youth Innovation Plus, Community Action Agency. They've done pilot projects in Hatch and have seen some tremendous results helping folks with their issues. The only caveat is that they would be required to fill out a survey, and we have an evaluation component, so we're accountable to that money. Thank you.
Candidate Fresquez.
Again, like many of the candidates have already said, giving someone a hand up is what we aim to do as public servants. I have family that raised their children in abject poverty, that walked to a tomato farm and picked tomatoes and walked back home, that were evicted from housing, that did have to figure out whether they were going to feed their kids or keep the lights on. And anybody in that sort of situation absolutely deserves help. So firstly, I'd like to say that. Secondly, if you feed a person for a day, or if you teach a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime, is something else that another candidate has said during the campaign, and that's absolutely true as well. So I feel that any sort of universal basic income program should be partnered with our community schools, and skills-based training should also be a part of where that money goes, how it's invested, so that at the end of that program, they have a skill that they can apply.
Thank you. Candidate Ortega.
Yeah, so GBI, Guaranteed Basic Income, I believe does not actually help a person. It's a temporary fix. It's a Band-Aid on the Grand Canyon. We need to look at those people and realize, or talk to them and say, why are you struggling? Do you need more education? Do you need training? What can we do to assist you? It's $9,000. So the city has passed a plan that they have 150 people that they're going to give them $500 for 18 months. That's $9,000. That's not a lot of money. For a lot of people it is, but a lot of people, $9,000 is not a lot. If you actually look at the people that have won lotteries, and then they're broke in less than a year, or whatever it may be. So as somebody did say, that I've been saying that, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Let's get these people the education, the training, teach them a skill. Whatever it is that they are lacking, so that they can earn more than $9,000 in that 18 months time.
Thank you. Candidate Solis.
This is a really tough one because I have a hard time agreeing with what's happening. I think that it is just throwing money at and not providing a solution. And I believe that money can be utilized to be able to train and equip these people in life skills, like we need plumbers, we need electricians, start training in a skill that would be beneficial to you for the future. And to me, I feel bad because I grew up poor, and I understand what it is to, pay Peter and then rob Peter to pay Paul. So I understand the the crunch there, but it is important that we learn those skills, and that's how we came out of poverty. We worked, we were equipped and trained, and so here we are today. But it is possible. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and it can be done. But we need to say, this is what we want to do. We want to train and equip our people to do great jobs in our community.
Candidate Tellez.
Well, that's another handout, and I believe that we're already the most entitling city in the country. I mean, we give. Clothes, food, EBT, free phones, free pads, and if they want, we'll give them a hotel room, we'll give them a place to stay. You know, we need to see who are they that we're giving this money to. Seniors, I would help them in a second. Disabled vets, absolutely. Mothers who are struggling with kids, yes. But to just indiscriminately distribute money, that I believe there's a lot of places that money would be better served than handing it out. There's not a shortage of jobs in this town. There's hardly a place you can go that doesn't have help wanted. That's $440 a week. If we want to do something, let's give people working minimum wage a tax break and suspend the taxes so they take more money home. But to give them money, that is not the solution.
Thank you very much. We're now moving on to our next question.
Question 8, and this is for candidate Gandara. Safety on our roads is a concern for all who use them. How will you work to make our roads safer?
We currently have a street management program that identifies each of the streets, labels them, grades them. It goes into our capital projects, and then we determine which streets need to be improved. And do that. And council has continued to give money towards that. We think it's an important priority. I'll talk about safety and the speeding, the incomplete streets, not adhering to proper bicycle paths and those things. I think that's a big problem for us, particularly when people choose to use that kind of mode of transportation, right? So currently we're looking at ways of reducing the speed with monitors and that are going to issue out tickets, if you will. I don't know at this point if that will pass or not, but I'm a big proponent of ensuring that we have safety in our streets. Thank you.
Candidate Fresquez.
I appreciate the question, and it's one that I feel very passionate about. Before my family grew to the size that it is now, I rode a bicycle throughout this town for over a decade. And when it was very hot in the summertime, I would take a break and hop a bus and make my way across town. So the first two things I'd like to see take place in Las Cruces is I'd like to see at least a couple of north to south corridors of protected bicycle lanes. And those can be simply visual barriers, batons with reflection strips around the top of them to give that sort of separation between bicycle transportation as well as even e-bicycle and balance board and scooters. Secondly, riding the buses over the years, I asked a member of council within the last 10 years, why don't we have benches? Why don't we have shade? And they told me that it was too expensive, essentially. I thought to myself, well, if it's too expensive, then what are we spending our money on? Why can't we spend it there? That's an important part of any progressive city, is that service.
Thank you very much. We're now moving on to candidate Ortega.
Yes, so on the road safety, I believe that we need more lighting. As I said, I frequent Picacho all the time. I live in that area. And there's a lot of people that will cross and you don't see them. So I believe that that is not safe. I've almost hit people all the time, so I have to be very, very careful. I know that the city when I ran, I believe it was the last time, they were talking about something called road diets. Now they've changed it to something else, which basically we had 3 lanes, we now turn it into 2, so that we can give the people that are riding bicycles the road as well. I know the city has an ordinance that a bicyclist can use a sidewalk. My daughter and I used to ride every evening. We'd ride 10 miles a day. I didn't feel safe on the road. I don't feel safe on the road in my car, much less on a bike. So we utilize the sidewalks when we could. I know sidewalks are meant for people that are walking, but we don't see very many people walking. And we can actually share the sidewalks, I think, easier with pedestrians than share the roads with bicycles, with automobiles.
Thank you. Candidate Solis.
Thank you so much for the question. I appreciate it. I do believe that we need to have public safety, and they do have those monitors that are watching those drivers that are going really fast. I live in a neighborhood where I have people going 50 and 60 miles an hour that just zoom through there. So I requested that we have speed bumps put in to be able to protect. We had a little puppy run over one day. And so I believe in protecting our streets. We need more lighting, like she says, because I have been into areas where it's been really dark and I'm not really sure, you can't really see when it's really dark. So I think more lighting, and I appreciate everything that's happening. I think that the pathway for bicycles is doing really well. I think we could improve, but I agree that we need to do something about those speeders that are going through small neighborhoods. That is totally wrong. Running over puppies, that really breaks my heart. Thank you.
Candidate
Well,
Tellez.
traffic safety goes back to the panhandlers, that the people holding up signs, like I talked about earlier, someone sitting in the median. Right now, a driver in this city has a whole lot to look at. You've got to look at, while you're driving, is somebody going to randomly cross the street on a green light while traffic's going? We've seen how many pedestrians have gotten run over in this last year. It's been quite a bit. Bicycle lanes are important, but you know what? At some point, we need to teach bicycle safety and teach them how to properly ride a bicycle on the streets. Right now, I see many streets that have the bike paths, but I see few using them. They'll ride in the street, on the sidewalk. We need to get training on riding bicycles, believe it or not. But another thing, crosswalks. If you go down by the Pan Am Center, you see a good example of something that works. We need more crosswalks on the main streets with lights.
Thank you very much. We're now moving on to candidate Enriquez.
Yes, thank you. While serving as the Assistant City Manager, one of the departments that I oversaw was Public Works. And I can tell you that there's a group of talented individuals, engineers, traffic engineers of all sorts that are constantly working on our streets because safety is a priority. We want good roads in our community and we want them safe. Another department that I worked with was GIS. GIS has started to create more of a data center so they can gather all the statistics, all the data, and be able to analyze that and give that to department heads in every department, but mostly like Public Works, on which are the intersections that are the most dangerous, which roads are we seeing the most traffic accidents or bicyclists or pedestrians, and taking that data and coming up with the formula that they use, which is education, enforcement, or engineering, and being able. So I feel very confident in where the city's going with this based on the departments that I've seen, what they're capable of doing, and they have the same thing in mind, safety.
Thank you very much. We're moving on to our final question, and this is for candidate Fresquez. What is your plan to improve youth programming in the city?
So I've gone to a few different Friday night flea markets at the downtown plaza, and they're really cool, and there's a huge group of youth that are there that support it. I feel that it's a beautiful space. I feel that they're enjoying themselves there, but I feel that they would like more programming, more venue appearances that are geared towards their age group, and I think they would also appreciate a venue that's more geared towards their age group. So it may not be what happens, but I imagine the lot where the Teakwood is being turned into a public arts park. So it's right there by a newly developing area on Conway Avenue. It's got coffee shops. It's right there next to the university, and it could have even some rail cars brought in that are used as mural locations. We know that graffiti has gone from being something that was abhorred to something that's celebrated now. So I feel that that would be a great location. That would be a great public works to undertake.
So youth programming, I'm really a big person and want to advocate especially for the youth because like I said, they're the future. Kids nowadays don't know how to swim. Let's utilize the pools more, give kids more opportunities. They can't afford the dollar that it is to go in there. Let's utilize the city, it's already there. Fill it to capacity. Let so many kids in a day to swim. Sports. I played sports. I grew up. I played basketball, soccer, softball, you name it, everything I could, and that's what helped kept me out of trouble. I grew up in poverty. I came from dysfunctionality. I came from a broken home, but the sports kept me busy. I didn't have time to get in trouble. I was running from one practice to the other. So let's help the kids. The programs right now that we have, middle school, for example, when I played, I needed $20 to go to a tournament. Couldn't afford it. My mom didn't have it. I had 2 moms pitch in so that I could go help their daughter's team. You know, right now, if you wanted to play middle school football, it costs $350 a child. They don't have that kind of money. I didn't have 20 bucks then. They don't have 350 today.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Solis.
I support the youth programming. I think that yesterday when I talked to a gentleman about at the Graphite on Amador, he said that he oversees 3,000 students on the soccer field, and I would support that because he's always looking for goal poles. He's looking for city officials to open the gate for him, and a lot of times he has to wait. So I would like to be able to communicate with him and with city officials on how we can make this easier for them, you know, because he's utilizing the field. He's having to wait on a city official to unlock the gate. So I would work with that because it's already there, and he's got 3,000 soccer field players, and he's really excited. He's passionate about what he's doing. So I want to get behind that and support what he's doing. And I would support any other youth activities because she's right. You keep your kids in sports and you keep them out of trouble.
Thank you. Candidate Tellez.
I agree with Isabella on that. The High Noon Soccer Complex, 4 years ago, there was said to be money granted to help upgrade it. They don't have bathrooms. They don't have a parking lot that you could go into a park. And like you said, those gates will be locked and people go in through a hole in the fence to get into that soccer field. We need to invest in High Noon Soccer Park, get that park brought up to code to where parking is safe, restrooms, lights so that they can practice at night when it's hot or play at night, and focus on what we have. Number one, get that. That would be my first priority, is High Noon, to get it up to code. Number two, I have the Dream Center. I fund it, and we have 5 different programs in that. I'd ask the faith-based community, open your doors Monday through Friday for after-school programs and get these kids in here, let them play basketball, help them with their homework, whatever it is you can do to get them off the streets.
Thank you. Candidate Enriquez.
Yes, I also grew up playing sports here in Las Cruces, a lot of baseball and basketball, and then I ended up coaching a lot of baseball, over 20 years of coaching youth, and I'm a big proponent and supporter of youth sports because of the fact that you give them structure. You help them grow with confidence and self-esteem. So I think it's very important to our youth. The infrastructure, again, there's teams that don't have fields to play in or gyms. I agree with either community schools, faith-based organization, anything that we can do and as a city start to enhance the infrastructure to help our youth with these programs. And then there's also the arts. We're big in our culture here in this community, whether it's music or dancing. All those things are very important to add structure for our youth. So I'm a big believer and advocate for youth involvement and activities.
Candidate Gandara.
Thank you. This is such an important issue. I think that we have a number of programs that I'd love to enhance through museums, libraries, park and rec. I'd like to enhance funding and partnership with our Boys and Girls Club, because they're building a state-of-the-art facility that's going to focus specifically on technology and gaming for kids, giving them something to do, which I think is really important. I also want to bring more community in the schools in the fold. We have a nice joint powers of agreement with the schools. I think that's an important hub and spoke model, right, that provides kids and families, but not only kids and families, but community around it, the infrastructure that's so desperately needed in these particularly impoverished areas. I also want to build a youth advisory group that provides information to the City Council on issues very specific to youth.
We've reached the end of the KRWG Las Cruces Mayoral Candidate Forum. We want to thank all of our candidates, Enriquez, Kasandra Gandara, Alex Paca Fresquez, Eugenia Gina Montoya Ortega, Isabella Solis, and Mike Tellez. Special thanks to our co-moderator, Liz Rodriguez-Johnson in the League of Women Voters of Southern New Mexico. I'm Anthony Moreno. Thank you for watching. And remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November 7th.